Hey everybody, this is Bradley of Bradley Teaches, and today I'm going to show you how to add a custom branded color palette to Keynote. Now if you stick around to the end, I have a couple of extra cool tips that are great for housekeeping. Let's go. Here we are in Keynote, and I've already opened up a basic white presentation. So let's click and drag across all the elements and delete, just to have a clean area to work in. Now the next thing I want to do is open up my color palette. So I'm going to click here on colors to get my color palette opened. Now there's a couple of ways or several ways to add custom colors to your Keynote color palette. You have your color wheel, you have color sliders with also the hex code area. You have different palettes that you can add. You can even have a spectrum here. And then finally, we have even color pencils where you can pick custom colors. All that's great, but what do you do when you want to add your brand colors? Those colors you want consistent throughout multiple presentations you may be doing, or lower third graphics or overlays and things like that. And you want those colors to be consistent. So how do you add your brand colors? Well, the easiest way that I've found to maybe add your brand colors is if you already have your color palette set up that you've created in another app, do a screen capture of those colors or bring in your logo that has those colors in it. Save that graphic, and now we're going to drag it into Keynote. So I have an old color palette here that I'm going to drag in from my desktop. So this is one of my older color palettes here, and as you see, it also even includes the hex codes. But we're going to do this in an even simpler way than typing in hex codes. What I want to do is click the eyedropper right here. Now I'm going to click the first color in that graphic. And as you see here, the color shows up in the box here, right? That's the color. Now I can grab that color and just drag it into the color palette, and it automatically jumps to the end of my color list. Now, if you have several colors already in your color palette, you can drag that color wherever you want it. What you cannot do is skip a space between colors. So either you can drag it in line with other colors or just drag it into the palette and it'll put it at the end of the color palette. Next color, let's go back to eyedropper, click the color, shows up in the box, drag it into the color palette, and there we go. And you just do this for all your colors. Now I will go ahead and show you how to add the hexadecimal code for the color also, in case your monitor may look a little bit off to you and the blue is not as blue as you thought it would be, and eyedropper in it doesn't make you feel good about that color. To get a closer guarantee to it, let's go over here to the sliders. Now this is if you have the hex code for those colors. So I'll use a hex code for this yellow here. Just type it into the hex code box. FFF275. Hit enter, and now there's a yellow, and I'll drag it in. Now, one thing about Keynote that's great, once you add these colors to your color palette, they are available to you in Keynote for all future projects. So you are good to go with your brand colors from here on out. Now, that's a plus, but it can also be a minus. Because if you look here in my color palette, I have several colors here that I might not have used in a long time. I've been adding colors because of demos and doing tutorials and all that kind of stuff, and colors that I quite frankly don't need anymore, but they're still in my color palette. So how do I get rid of them? Now with all the ease of Keynote, one thing that's very hard to do is delete colors if you don't know the trick to it. Now, it's simpler than you think, but it was just hard to figure out how to do it. So click the color to select it, click and hold, and you can see here how you can see I'm dragging that color, drag it down to the dock, over the trash can, and delete it. So that's how you delete the colors out of your color palette to keep your color palette clean and more useful for you. Now here's a really cool trick that I picked up that'll be great for you to use in your color palette to help you sort out your colors and keep your color palette a little bit neat. Now, as you see here in my color palette, I told you that you cannot skip squares. But as you see here, there are several squares that look like they've been skipped. So how do I do that? I'm not actually skipping the squares. I'm using a color in all of those squares. So why and how did I do that? So first off, let me show you how I did it. I'm going to click the eyedropper, and then I'm going to pick just a random color gray like out of this box. And I'll drag it in. Let's start down here. Now that color is now the first one in this row, as you see here. What I'm going to do now is hold down Option, click that color and drag. And I'm going to keep clicking and dragging that color until I fill up the whole line here with that color. And when that whole line is filled here, I've now created a divider. Now, why would I want to do that? Say you may have seasonal colors, or you may have several sets of brand colors, and you don't want them all jumbled up like this where they're hard to figure out what goes with what. And this is the color scheme that I might be using for a Christmas program. And now I have a fall program and the colors are just all jumbled up together. This is great for that, as you see here. I have a row of colors, then I have my blank colors as a separator. Then I start my next row of colors, and it keeps them coordinated. It lets me know how I want to set things up, and it keeps it a lot cleaner. So hopefully those extra 2 house cleaning tips can really help you set up your color palette and do something really nice in Keynote. So until next time, I'm Bradley Teaches. See you in the next video. Bye-bye.